Time now for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. I'm delighted to be joined live in the studio by Fleet Street legend Kelvin MacKenzie. And Kelvin, of course, the Lionesses lost out in the World Cup final. But this moment from Sky News left many in the country stunned. It was their pundit Wilfred Emmanuel-Jones' controversial preview of the big match.
The only thing I would say about this picture here, what jumps out of you is that this doesn't sort of represent diverse Britain. It's all these blonde, blue-eyed girls, and, you know, I wish them well, but I do think we need to ask ourselves questions about why is it that we've got, it has a lack of diversity.
I mean, that made me so angry, Kelvin.
Right, well, it's shocking, and it's the second time that it happened in the week. It happened about a few days earlier, in which another former Labour councillor and a former Voice journalist made a similar point. So this is not a mistake. This is not a mistake that's going on. You know, the producers. Oh, I'm so sorry, we got this wrong. This is part of a kind of organised push. And my point about this is this: if, for instance, a white press previewer had come on and said, oh, I think there are too many black faces in the UK athletics team, one thing and one thing only would have happened. That guy would have been slung off air at 100 miles an hour. The presenter would have pushed back against him. And even, by the way, the Wilfred Emmanuel-Jones, the lady sitting next to him is of the left. She didn't say anything. Nobody says anything when it's an attack on the white.
Yeah, so anti-white racism is acceptable.
Anything that happens of another kind. And by the way, no white guest would say it. So how is it that a black guest has the right to say it on what is a licensed television station? And the answer is they've been given their permissions. And the permission is, if we're centre-left, first of all, we'll get a tick from the mainstream media Herberts, but also we won't get a cross from the advertising agencies. So if you're a centre-right, you have a problem in this country, right? A massive commercial problem. Media agencies won't buy your space, and if you're of the left, and if you, in fact, start embracing it, then you might do even better.
And what people need to realise with Sky News, because a lot of people still think that it's in some way connected to Murdoch. No. This is a channel owned by Comcast. Comcast run MSNBC, the hard left network in the US, and that's what they're slowly bringing to the UK. But look, Kelvin, I want to move on to the shocking story of Lucy Letby. One thing that really struck you was her friend Dawn, best friend Dawn, standing by her in what was an extraordinary interview on Panorama. Watch this.
We know she couldn't have done anything that she's accused of. So without a doubt, we stand by her. I've grown up with Lucy, and not a single thing that I've ever seen or witnessed of Lucy would, you know, let me for a moment believe that she was capable of the things she was being accused of.
You seem utterly unshakable on this, but isn't it possible she's fooled you all?
Unless Lucy turned around and said, I'm guilty, I will never believe that she's guilty.
Extraordinary interview, Kelvin, because, I mean, it does show how this woman managed to hoodwink even the closest people in her life.
OK, so in one way, you've got to admire this lady, because she will be one person out of 60 million who feels like this. And also, she hasn't been sitting in the court every day. She hasn't listened to the experts' evidence. And the other aspect to this is her parents obviously feel the same way. They didn't turn up today to hear their daughter being sentenced. They've waltzed away from it as well. I just wonder what kind of cunning exists within this lady that she manages to control not only her friends, not only her family, but actually all her senior workmates. What worries me about the NHS today is every time there is a spotlight shone on some terrible thing, East Kent, Morecambe, now the Countess of Chester, and loads of other areas, right? Every time, these are shocking things that emerge. Could it be that at every single hospital, when the spotlight goes on it, there will be something like Chester? Not as bad, but something like that going on. Who is running this thing? Why is there not, when you have a CEO, or a chief executive, why is that person actually not in charge? At that Countess of Chester, they had two sides of the hospital were fighting. The consultants were fighting with the actual nurse-based executives. Could this be happening? I ask your viewers, could this be happening in your hospital now? Everybody you speak to has a story about their mum or dad. I mean, Dame, just now. Yeah, just my own mother, right? When she was sent out from a hospital having had a stroke, she was sent out the following day. What happens when you have a stroke, right? The most likely thing to happen happened to her. She had another stroke. Everybody has this story. What is going on? And I'll tell you what it is. It's a monopoly. It's a trade union. And they are gods. They are literally gods.
And they look after each other, which is why, by the way, I completely believe that whoever is in charge of this eventual inquiry has to come from overseas. You know, we cannot have someone with an NHS bias looking into this. I really strongly believe this because we've shown they cannot mark their own homework on these issues. But look, Kelvin MacKenzie, great to have you here tonight. Thank you so much.